thanks for joining me today for my breakdown and review of Its Dark Materials Season 2, Episode 4, The Tower of Angels. Before I get into it, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified to the next video I drop. And be warned, this is a breakdown review, so heavy spoilers are ahead. I enjoyed this episode immensely. Episode 4 hands out payoff after payoff, from Will finally getting the knife and learning how to use it, to finally showing us Stanislas Grumman, Jopari, to having Mrs. Coulter go through to the other world with Boreal, to Mary making contact and actually speaking with Dust. It was just jam-packed with answers and big reveals, so let's break it down. The opening prologue and monologue of the episode begins by explaining how the knife was created by the guild 300 years ago and how the people that created it fell to greed and self-indulgence instead of using it for its intended purpose to help all existence. But they got their karma as strange evil forces, the specters, crept out from the shadows, only a few at first, but the tear in the sky by Azrael brought about a mass flood of the specters who took out all the adults in the city except for a few who ran off. But the knife in the right hands could save us all. As this is being said, we are shown Will, a bit of a well-inserted foreshadowing. There are also other additional well-placed foreshadowings during the prologue of a statue of a disfigured hand with its ring and pinky finger cut off, and we'll get to that later in the episode. And this monologue was great as it revealed in a little more than 2 minutes a lot of information about the knife for those who haven't read the books. Will and Lyra try and find the entrance to the tower in order to get the knife and trade it to Sir Charles, aka Lord Boreal, for the alethiometer. At first, they can't find an entrance, so they look around the surrounding buildings thinking that they might find a way through, and they do as Pan finds a door with an angel on it. Smart, Pan! They go inside and they make their way to the tower, but they're not alone as we see a mysterious person go after them, not to mention that the ominous specters are also always lurking nearby. When they make it up to the final floor of the tower, they see an old man tied up on the floor, Giacomo Paradisi, who tells them that he's the bearer and a boy stole the knife from him. The boy is still there, and he is the older brother of Angelica, Tullio. After the specters invaded, Tullio hid in the tower and stole the knife from Giacomo because he knew that the knife had the power to kill and ward off specters. Will and Tullio fight over the knife, and in this amazing fight scene, which I've been waiting for and dying to see, Will loses his 2 fingers in the fight, which reveals to Giacomo that Will is the new bearer of the knife. Later, Giacomo explains to Will that the knife has chosen him to be the new bearer and reveals to him that he also fought and lost the same 2 fingers. Giacomo proceeds to teach Will about the subtle knife, aka a sahetra, and the rules a bearer must follow. First, he tells him about the 2 edges of the knife. One edge will cut any material in the world, and the other cuts through 2 different worlds. How cool is this knife? And now we understand why Lord Boreal is dying to get his hands on it. A very important thing to take note of is how it's not just the knife that makes the cut, it's the mind. The mind has to be clear in order for the knife to work, and Will struggles with this at first. And in a very sweet scene, Pan tries to reach out to him even though it goes against everything in his and Lyra's nature. People are not allowed to touch another's demon. Lyra very sweetly explains this to Will and tells him about her own experiences of trying to read the alethiometer while she was very scared. She learned that she had to lean into the fear and accept it, and that's what Will has to do with his pain. Her words help Will find his resolve, and with Giacomo's guidance, he learns how to cut through to other worlds and how to close the tear he opened with his fingertips. And finally, Giacomo tells him about the rules of being a knife bearer. First, never open a window without closing it. Second, never let anyone else use the knife. Third, don't use it for base purposes, don't show it off, and don't let it inflate your ego. And fourth, keep it a secret, for it should never fall into the wrong hands. That's a pretty good set of rules for sure. Giacomo tells Will that the knife will protect him, but he makes Will promise that he will protect the knife too, and tells him to go. Will asks Giacomo to come with them because he knows that without the knife, he will be vulnerable, but Giacomo refuses and ends up taking his own life by drinking poison. He was very brave and didn't want the specters to eat his soul, and that scene was really cool in showing that they tried to come and get him, but he was already gone. After they leave the tower, it seems that Will is able to see the outlines of the specters now while he's holding the knife. And later in the episode, we see that because he no longer possessed the subtle knife and wandering around town trying to find somewhere to hide, Tulio is devoured by the specters. In another big reveal, after traveling very far on boat and traversing swamplands, Lee Scorsby comes across a demon that leads him to finally find Stanislas Grumman, who also goes by Joffrey. It turns out that Joffrey, whose name I've been pronouncing wrong all this time, was the mysterious man we briefly saw in the last episode, and among other things, he's also a shaman who has a hawk spirit. Joffrey tells Lee that he was the one that summoned Lee to him and shows him his mother's ring, which he hasn't seen for over 20 years, adding more era of mystery surrounding this character and how he's connected to all of this and even Lee Scorsby. And it seems that not only does he not have the knife, though he's very knowledgeable of it, he doesn't know who the new bearer is. Boy, is he gonna be surprised when he finds out. He wants to find the knife and the new bearer and take them to Lord Asriel. Lee doesn't seem to like this very much though, and of course I agree with him because Lord Asriel is a douchebag who sacrificed Roger. But Joffrey's reasoning is that there's a war going on with two sides, oppressors of free thought and people who want to think and explore, and Asriel is fighting the oppressors and needs the knife and the bearer for the Great War. Lee doesn't seem to give a hoot though, and that's why I love Lee. He's dedicated to finding Lyra and tells Joffrey about her and causes him to open up about his own past and about how he left his own son and wife to come to this world, and unable to find his way back, he dedicated his life to becoming a scholar and shaman in order to find a different way back to his family, but was unsuccessful in doing so. Joffrey says that he hasn't given up on finding his way back to his son, but has realized that at the very least he has to work on creating a new world that he'd want his son to live in and be free in, and that's why he wants to help Asriel with his quest. Lee makes Joffrey promise him that he will put Lyra under the protection of the knife if they find it, and he will take Joffrey wherever he needs to go. Little does he know that Lyra is already under the protection of the knife with Will, and so Lee Scorsby and Joffrey set off for Lee's balloon, and after finding it and taking off, Joffrey summons the wind with his shaman powers and they go full speed ahead towards the portal. The same portal that the witches are also going for. This episode also shows us that the Queen Witches Ruth Ascati and Serafina Pekkala set aside their differences and agree to head to the anomaly. Serafina wants to get to the child of the prophecy, Lyra, and Ruth Ascati wants to go after Asriel to bring him back to finish what he started. Meanwhile, Sir Charles is making his own moves by meeting with Dr. Malone under the guise of wanting to fund her research. He mentions that the technology could attract defense funding, which sets off Mary's alarm bells, who doesn't want this powerful technology to fall into the wrong hands, and rightly so, because Lord Boreal is definitely the wrong hands. He also meets with Mrs. Coulter and tells her where Lyra is in Will's world. This scene was great because Boreal is so pompous and Mrs. Coulter wants nothing to do with him and just wants to use him to get to Lyra. I love how she physically had to hold back the monkey from doing anything because you could tell that the monkey wanted to take out Boreal's snake, who was getting a little too close for comfort. Remember, you're not supposed to touch another person's demon in their world. He convinces her to go with him to Will's world and shows her the way he's been going to Will's world through Sitigaze, and the scene where Mrs. Coulter stops to take note of the creepy specters was great and also noteworthy for us as viewers. Later, we see Will in a bath in a lot of pain, and Lyra and Pan come to give him a towel, and we see Pan be very shy as both he and Lyra feel very bad for Will and the pain he's going through. She tells him that the last thing the alethiometer told her was that he was really important and connected to this place, and asks what he wants to do now. He tells her that they have to steal the alethiometer back, and she's relieved and feels happy, and this scene was really great because it shows that she looks and thinks of him differently now, even though she wasn't actually looking at him. She says, "Good night, Will Perry, the bearer of the knife," with something of admiration and respect. She has seen him be a badass and knows him to be a formidable ally now. They have now crossed over into another phase of their friendship where they're equals, and he's not playing her sidekick and being a Robin to her Batman. He is a hero in his own right with his own magical item. Later, Mary finally makes contact with Dust through Cave, who revealed to her that they are intelligent beings also known as angels, creatures made up of shadow matter or dust. They say to her, "From what we are, spirit, from what we do, matter. Matter and spirit are one." She asks if angels have intervened in human evolution, and they reply yes, and when she asks why, they ominously say, "Vengeance." There is more to this conversation in the books, but I think they will pick it back up in the next episode, so I will not spoil it for those of you who haven't read the books. And speaking of vengeance, the next scene is of the witches taking their vengeance on the Magisterium as they proceed to take out the guards in the airships guarding the portal. They kick their butts and go through the anomaly, and that concludes episode 4. So as I said, there were plenty of reveals in this episode, and now a lot of the key characters are converging on the same place, Sutigaze. It is laying the groundwork for what is to come next, and as for what is to come next, you should know that this season has unfortunately been cut short due to the beer bug. Originally, it was supposed to be 8 episodes, with the final episode being a standalone episode focusing on Lord Asriel and the events of what happened to him after he went through the portal to when we see him next at the beginning of Book 3, The Amber Spyglass. But with the season being shortened to 7 episodes, it looks like we won't be seeing Asriel in this season after all, which is a bit of a bummer, but there are also so many things left to go through, and I'm super excited to see the next episode. What did you think of episode 4? And please share your theories and ideas for the next episode and the remainder of the season in the comments down below. Don't forget to smash that like and hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this review. Thank you so much, everyone. Until next time, bye!